A new world order. A new world order. A new world order.
And we are, as a people, opposed to secret societies.
This is extremely dangerous to democracy.
You're listening to Truth Decay. I'm your host, One Concerned American. On today's episode, I want to cover some weird and unusual things about Joe Biden's presidency so far. And I want to go ahead and start this off by saying I'm not a very political person. I didn't vote in this last election. I've talked many times about how my belief is that both sides lie to us and keep us divided. If you watched my last channel before it got deleted, I probably made 10 hours worth of videos exposing different lies about Donald Trump and his past, things that have been very unusual. So this is nothing against Democrats or liberals or Joe Biden, just trying to find different ways to talk about this intelligence and bring people together and see what you guys think. Now, the first thing that I think is very unusual is that for years now we've been led to believe that the Democrats hate walls and they hate guns. Yet, since January 6th, we've seen the White House surrounded by walls and armed guards, soldiers, patrols. We see this is around the entire Capitol area. Now, something is unusual about this. I do think at the Capitol riots on January 6th, some people did go too far, but obviously the overwhelming majority of people there that day were peaceful. And Donald Trump has been acquitted of trying to incite the violence there. So it's pretty clear that something is going on. I mean, we all know that we're being lied to about something. Joe Biden signed 17 executive orders on his first day. Donald Trump never really conceded. He continues to claim that the election was fraudulent and taken from him. And again, I don't have really any stance on that. I mean, he seems to have taken it to court many times. I heard 61 times, and out of that, 60 times he's been rejected. So we'll see what happens. You also need to note that on February 19th, the United States Supreme Court is scheduled to hear election cases about fraud in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Georgia. I want you to keep this guy, Lin Wood, in mind. He's one of these attorneys that's looking into the fraud cases in Georgia for Donald Trump. And we're going to talk about some things that he said about what's going on behind the scenes with the world elites. So again, keep Lin Wood's name in mind. We've also seen an article from Forbes just 2 days ago publishing that Georgia Senator Warnock is under investigation for voter registration misconduct. There's a reason that Georgia was so heavily politicized and why they're talking about this phone call that Donald Trump made with some people in Georgia. When it comes right down to it, folks, in every election there's a little bit of fraud. But it seems that in this past election, it was painfully obvious. I mean, a lot of people know that something just isn't right. And even the New York Times, folks, they published an article where they made this all seem like a conspiracy, but actually low-key admitted that this is the truth, that it was rigged. And you can see the title of this article is called The Secret History of the Shadow Campaign That Saved the 2020 Election. And when you go through this article, you can see that they've said, quote, "That's why the participants want the secret history of the 2020 election told. Even though it sounds like a paranoid fever dream, a well-funded cabal of powerful people, ranging across industries and ideologies, working together behind the scenes to influence perceptions, change rules and laws, steer media coverage and control the flow of information. They were not rigging the election, they were fortifying it." You know that when Time magazine starts talking about this, they're prepping people to get ready for this conversation that there was fraud on some level. And again, most people know it. I mean, it's happened in the past. People know that it happens in every election, but something about this particular election, it seems like they wanted to make it obvious almost. And one of the publications that has done a great job going over the various forms of voter fraud that took place in this election is the Epoch Times. Now, their channel has been demonetized by YouTube, I believe, but as I've said, I'm not here to make money. I don't really care if you look into the Epoch Times or not. But this infographic here has a lot of data that I'm going to break down for you about exactly why people like Donald Trump are claiming the election was stolen. So let's get into this a little bit. So one of the things that you have to understand is that COVID-19 drastically changed how people voted in the 2020 election. Because the virus had been so widespread and so amped up by the media, they changed to a universal mail-in ballot. And what this means is that people were getting ballots in the mail. I saw it myself that people were getting sent many different ways to vote. And so a lot of people took advantage of that. Some people voted more than once. People voted from different states. People that were not the right age voted. And again, because of everything with the virus, a lot of this stuff was eased back. A lot of people stopped paying attention to this stuff. And in some states, people were even instructed to not pay attention to this, or to look the other way, or to actually help assist in these fake votes being counted. We've also seen clearly that the big tech companies have had a big hand in silencing any opposition to this discussion. And that's their right. I mean, if I had a big company and people were publishing all types of stuff and there were things that potentially would damage my company or our reputation, I would probably censor it too. I mean, this is America. It's not completely socialist just yet. So these private companies do have a right to regulate it in some way. I don't agree with censoring the president, obviously. But the fact that they have to censor him without telling you why he's wrong. Donald Trump has been sitting here saying for months now that the election was fraudulent, that he really won, and nobody has really proved him wrong. They just say that he's lying. But they haven't really produced the evidence, and in fact, if you look at the actual evidence, it seems to indicate the exact opposite. If you get into the diagram a little bit more, you'll see that there's some other interesting stuff. For example, people found fresh ballots that were mostly for Biden, and at some points, they were finding these votes after the election had ended. They had seen some ballots that looked like they had been filled in by machines. There were some places where nobody verified the signatures. There were thousands of ballots arriving overnight in some places. There were some ballots that should have been rejected that weren't. People were using post office boxes as their home addresses. Votes were cast for people who had moved out of the state that they were just previously registered from. And there's also a lot of evidence that the Dominion machines were very easy to manipulate. And in fact, the Senate Intelligence Committee in June 2017 commented, quote, how easy it can be to manipulate computerized voting machines, and that they can be reprogrammed to invisibly cause any candidate to win. We can also see that there were people claiming that in Pennsylvania, people saw poll workers that were putting USBs into these machines, which is something they definitely shouldn't have been doing. And overall, there's just a major lack of oversight. Lots of problems here. The company that formed Dominion does have some ties to Venezuela and Hugo Chavez. So this is at least worth having a conversation. The fact that people are getting deplatformed and doxxed because they're simply asking questions about this is not okay. And again, I'm not here to make money. I'm literally just showing you what both sides are saying and trying to let you decide for yourself. Because there's so much agitation out there, it's really hard to kind of come to an honest conclusion. So I want to give you the evidence and let you decide. Because again, I'm not political. I'm trying to be objective here. I don't really care either way who's president. But I would at least like to not see an election stolen. So that it feels like, hey, even though I don't want to vote, I'd like our vote to at least matter for some reason. Or else, what are we really working for? What are we being taxed for? And I know it does seem like it'd be really hard to steal an election and pull all this off, but go back and look at this 1992 article from Joe Biden, where he says he learned to love the New World Order. You can see that in this article, he talks about something called the Pax Americana. basically setting an example for the United States having a clear military leadership role for the rest of the world and fulfilling our role in the New World Order, our proper role in the New World Order, his words to be exact. You can see he also talks about breathing life into the UN Charter. Well, go and read the UN Charter sometime, folks. If you lay it side by side with the old Soviet Constitution, it's practically the same document. And over time, a more fortified United Nations is going to lead to the dismantling of United States sovereignty. It's going to lead to the dismantling of our military and the disarmament of our population. So Joe Biden admitted over 30 years ago that he supported this. And he's also run for president before, folks, and it's been exposed that he was a plagiarizer. He lied about his record. There's a lot of unusual things about him. I mean, he's not even that great on race, despite how everybody in the Democratic Party tries to portray him. And we're seeing active manipulation of views and likes and dislikes every time the White House puts out a video now that Joe Biden has been in power. You can see here that Joe Biden gave a remark, and this was put on YouTube, and it had overwhelming thumbs down. And these are being changed. I've probably seen online about 20 different examples of this, where the dislikes are way higher than the likes. And then you can go back and see how it's been manipulated, where they've changed it. So they're trying to make it appear that Biden is much more liked than he really is. And something isn't right about the votes, because if you go back and look at it, folks, they're trying to say that Joe Biden got 80 million votes, even though he won less counties than Obama. Okay, and if you think people were excited about Joe Biden like they were Obama, I do believe that you're in denial. The Democrat Party just doesn't have any excitement behind it anymore for anyone. You can see that even Antifa now, even if it's just all for a show, they're even going out and rioting now, and they're still upset. So things just aren't right. The Democrat Party, folks, is on its way out. I can tell you that I'm seeing stuff that's pure evil coming from them. For example, even today, as I'm making this video, Donald Trump was acquitted, and then Chuck Schumer got behind the microphone and continued to rant saying that Donald Trump should be impeached and this and that, and continuing to try to draw out this conflict. When think about it, folks, Chuck Schumer has been in office nearly 40 years, and what has he done? He hasn't done anything to really help anybody. You can look at this editorial from the early 90s, pointing out that Chuck Schumer is basically a Nazi. This man has tried to push through legislation that would make it illegal to discuss conspiracy theories. He's also put out legislation at some points to try to outlaw scoped rifles. So this man has a problem with fundamental concepts of American freedom. And make no mistake about it, he's probably on the payroll, meaning that he is most likely corrupt, most likely blackmailed and compromised, and just does whatever he's told to do. Otherwise, he wouldn't continue to be in office, folks, let's be honest. If you want to know just how low the Democrat Party really is, take a look at this. Harold Moody, who is from Arkansas and a former Democrat Party chairman, is on trial right now for violence against children. And not just violence against children, but recording it and streaming it online. Okay, I'm not even going to say the words because YouTube's algorithm is pretty harsh. I just want to show this to you because as the impeachment is going on of Donald Trump and this man has been acquitted, really it's been wasting our time because we should have been talking about this. How many other people were involved? It's probably a lot more than you would think. Okay, and you can see here that this case has been going on for a couple years now. In April of 2020, the jury trial was reset for February 1st, 2021, so that's 2 weeks ago. And notice the media hasn't talked about it at all. Right, but they will play stuff about Donald Trump's impeachment 24/7, even though they knew that he was probably going to get acquitted. I mean, let's be honest. The same thing happened when they tried to impeach him for the Ukrainian phone call. So, it's all a joke, folks. It's all by design to keep us divided. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is returning to this man named Lin Wood. As I said before, he's an attorney who's working with Donald Trump right now to try to overturn some of these results in the Georgia election. If you look into the type of stuff he's been saying, it has been extreme, I won't lie. For example, on January 6th, he was tweeting out that people should hang Mike Pence. And then if you go and watch footage from that day, you'll see that a lot of people were calling for that. And Lin Wood has also gone on the record and talked about that there is a legitimate blackmail network that Epstein Island was a part of that involves violence against children. I'm not even going to read this tweet. You can read it yourself. But you can see, again, this involves video recording. It involves violence. And this is how they keep people in this blackmail network. And really, people have only been advancing to these seats of power who have been a part of this because they're easier to control. And this is just the way the world has been. Who knows how long? Maybe Donald Trump is a part of it, maybe not. It's really hard to say. I mean, would we be all talking about this at all if he was not the president? I don't know. Maybe it's gotten to the point because of stuff like Pizzagate where they have to at least discuss it a little bit. I don't know, and this is all just damage control. But the world is messed up, guys. Whether it's Joe Biden, Donald Trump, who's going to be the president, it really doesn't matter if we're not going to come together as Americans. So, let me know what you guys think in the comments. As I said, it doesn't make a difference to me. I just want to bring people together. Maybe we can start a new political party. I just know that both sides do lie to us. They definitely keep us divided, and I think they're trying to get us to hurt each other now at this point. So I hope you guys take care. I hope God blesses you and all your families. And please comment and let me know below what you guys think about what's going on. I appreciate your opinions.